My name is Michael Tolleson. I'm an Autistic Savant artist, and I am in my gallery, and I have a gallery in Merida. The gallery is on Calle 66. I'm around the corner from the English Library, and I have gone into the English Library. I spoke to a few people and I asked about the possibility of doing something in order to bring awareness of autism a little bit more focal. So they suggested that I get involved in their lecture series. And in this lecture series, I am supposed to talk about myself, my gallery, and more importantly, see if I can enlighten. And if I had to pick anything that is important to me, it would be the idea of leaving a legacy. So let's start first by who I am and why it's important. Behind me as I walk around, you will see glimpses of my gallery, and it's a pretty large gallery. It's 4,000 square feet. It encompasses a large footprint. It has only my art and only my husband's art. The two of us are autistic. Even though Jack has not been diagnosed as a savant, I would say that his abilities range in the savant abilities as well. So first let's talk about me and kind of get an idea of what we're talking about. I get up every morning and I feel normal, and as any of you do. I mean, we all get up and we feel normal, and that's the part of normal that may be confusing, because your normal and my normal are never the same thing. And you may be with a partner, you may have close friends, all of you may share different interests, but the truth is that no one's normal is exactly the same. Whether or not you have an itch, a scratch, a hurt, any of those things, an ability, any of those things are considered your normals to you, not to anyone else. One of the problems with the society, as I can see as an autistic, is the fact that we tend to want to drag people into our own normal. And that normal is normal only for us. So the ability to do things such as, for me, the way I paint is unique to me. I grew up in Texas. I grew up in a little Texas town outside San Antonio. Our particular town was typically Texan, and there was a railroad track in the middle of town, in our town of 3,000 people. And within that town, the Mexicans lived on one side and the European descent people lived on the other. I am a unique little animal because my mother was of Mexican descent and my father was not. He was European. So having that mixed heritage, I fit on neither side of the railroad tracks. This caused confusion, and it also caused problems as I grew up there, because we moved into the white part of the neighborhood and I wasn't considered white enough. At the same time, I wasn't considered Mexican enough because at a glance, I looked more European than I looked Mexican. I grew up around my Mexican grandparents. They did things very Mexican. My grandfather had come from Mexico in his 20s, my grandmother as a baby. And the lifestyle I had as a child was to go to my grandparents, and my grandfather would paint the trees white for the ants, dig a hole to make barbacoa, would typically do those things which I consider to be Mexican, and it has to do with my childhood, and that is that he'd use a piece of baling wire to fix anything. Rather, even though they had the money, everything can be fixed with a piece of baling wire. And that is the childhood I grew up with. My grandmother made beef soup every Sunday, and it was a typically northern Mexico beef soup with the bone marrows, and we would all fight for it in order to be able to put it in our tortilla and put a little salt and salsa on it and eat it. My sister and I particularly would fight over that. But I grew up Mexican. Being here now in Mexico, I feel more at home than I felt any other place. These are my people. I don't look like them, but I feel like them, and my heart feels like them. So I grew up, I had difficulties as a child. I was able to get out in the world. I wound up living a life of someone who was in pain. I was autistic, Asperger's, and the Asperger end of it tends to be average to high IQ. I have 153 IQ. So my level of comprehension and processing was already different than everyone else. In addition to that, being biracial, I didn't fit in. And third of all, I had already discovered some of my differences of being gay. As early as 8 years old, I remember leanings and tendencies and desires and all of those. So I was already feeling that very early. The combination made me feel different, and I was never able to really recover from being different and being unhappy and judged. And I spent a great deal of time in my 20s into my 30s living in New York City, where I had moved from Texas, self-medicating. So I did a lot of drugs, I did a lot of drinking. I was never an addict. I don't have triggers. I don't. If I have a glass of wine, I'm not going to start drinking out of control. But during that particular time, I drank heavily and I did a lot of cocaine, trying to numb myself from the pain I felt within. It wasn't until later in life, after a couple of DUIs, that I thought to myself, what am I doing? Why am I living the life I'm living when I really don't feel a need to drink? I was just feeling a need to not hurt. So I spent some time basically soul searching, and I got to the place where I allowed myself to think about what I was doing and just put down the alcohol and drugs and just say, I'm done. So that was a turning point for me. I became a little more aware of who I am. I became a little more aware of being at peace with myself. And I also, because I was sexing a lot, I was having a lot of sex with a lot of different people because of my insecurities and needing to feed my desire that I'm going to be attractive to other people. So I just decided at that point in my life I didn't need to live the life I was living. It was at that point, after I decided to be self-contained, not worry about having someone in my life, not abusing my body, not abusing my mind, that I met my partner and now husband, Jack, and we had a very interesting courtship. He was an alpha, I was an alpha, and we had some interesting clashes. But beyond that, we saw something in each other that made sense. Now, mind you, I'm 63. When I was a child, there was no autism diagnosis. There was no bipolar, dyslexia, attention deficit disorder, any of those diagnoses. So because of that, Jack and I entered into a relationship thinking that each other was pretty odd, but understanding there was something within each of us that we identified with, and it actually made for a healthy relationship. One of the things that I had made up in my mind was the fact that I would not change it. It was the first relationship where my normal didn't have to be everyone else's normal. And Jack had his own way of dressing, living, thinking, and it was for him to do, and I wasn't going to do anything in order to change that in him. So I approached the relationship in that he was a strong individual, I was a strong individual, and together we could have a relationship where both of us could be on our own journey, but yet the journey could go together. I'll get into it in a little bit, but essentially what happened is we both discovered that we're autistic. And we took that autism and we decided to help the world, and one person at a time. So that means that we started to work with autistic children and mentor art, and I started to do outreach. Okay, so let's get back to the whole relationship, art, all of that, because essentially, like I told you, I'm sitting in the middle of Merida Central with a 4,000 square foot gallery full of my art, and the art is recognized globally. I have collectors from all over the world. I have people that will target coming to Merida only to well, not only to see the gallery, but it is a strong component in coming to Merida. And I am known probably on Facebook with my pages and my profile. And followers, I have about 20,000 people. Now, as you know, Facebook is only a vehicle that you can gauge your direct contact, but then everyone in Facebook is able to extend that contact by their friends, the things they share, and what they do. As I talk about the gallery, I'm going to do a quick little spin around so you kind of just see the type of art I create. This is one room of the gallery. I'm going to take you into the main area and we can do another quick sweep. So this is the street, obviously, 66th, and if you go down to the end of the block and make a right, 1/2 block down is the English library. So this is actually a painting of my husband, Jack, which I did. We have 2 floors. I'm highly influenced by the things around me. So I'm just going to talk first about where I am right now. So as an autistic savant, what I do is I take in stimulation from a visual source, so a photo or something that I can actually see, and then I feel the photo. So if there is a photo of a model that's been photographed and she is nude, I will feel the photo. Now, beyond that, what I will do is I will paint her, and then after I paint, I will let her talk to me. The painting speaks. So this particular painting has to do with the moment after sex when a man and a woman part. And for men, biologically, when we're done, and we're off to eat something, have a cigarette, or move on. Women are more likely to have lingering feelings, emotional feelings, and wish to cuddle and lay there together and share those moments. So this painting is called Please Don't Go. And It is the feeling that a woman has right after being intimate and waiting for that moment where she can cuddle and share those feelings while her partner has now left the room. Paintings speak to me. I paint everything emotionally. Everything that I create is created from an emotion. This is another one. This particular one is called Versus the World. And in many ways, it's my life. I have basically lived a life at odds with the world around me because I don't fit in as an autistic. Autistic Savant artist. Boy, that's a mouthful. I will take subject and I will, within minutes, create a completed painting, usually within 2 hours in order to complete a painting. Even though during events, I can do it in a short time. So 5 years ago, I'm on the Nokia stage with Ed Asner and Joe Mateo from Criminal Minds and Temple Grandin and an award-winning, Grammy award-winning singer sang 2 songs. His name is Lonnie Parks. It was 10 minutes for him to sing the 2 songs, and during that time, I completed a 3-foot by 4-foot horse painting, and they auctioned it off for charity. It's my normal. It's the way I live my life. It is how I function as an artist. It's not the way that anyone else functions as an artist. As we took a spin around the gallery, you could see I do all these different styles. I do all these different subjects. That is not typical for a known artist. A known artist has been taught by art school to have a particular subject and to basically exhaust that subject. Do it over and over and over and over again in all different ways and in all different sizes, and you take that subject, you take that style, and you create your image. My image is the emotion, and my image is the color. I don't have a way of creating over and over again. And that is the autism. That is part of the, I call it the autism soup, because autism can be a huge melting pot of a lot of different conditions. So attention deficit disorder, OCD, the dyslexia, the depression that comes sometimes with it. And we have this huge melting pot. So we have things that kind of go into the pot. Well, this OCD and this attention deficit disorder keep me always striving to improve what I do and be a better artist, but it also makes me challenge myself with things that I've never done before. So for me, what I have done is I have pushed and pushed, and I started out, doing some landscapes, and I started buildings, and after buildings I started doing some horses, and after horses I tried some people, and I've evolved into pretty much of a figurative artist, even though I do enjoy painting my horses and painting my landscapes. But I'm really captivated by people's emotion. And as an autistic, we sometimes get the label that we are not very sympathetic and we don't feel feelings. Well, for Asperger's, which is the end of autism, which has the higher IQ and the more able to socialize, we tend to be very empathic. So while I may not be able to feel things in an abstract way, I can feel things very deeply. Now that sounds a little confusing, so let me explain that. If you tell me that a building fell across town with 200 people that were killed, I feel nothing. I can't even pretend to feel something. Now, if a woman walks into my gallery and she tells me that her child is challenged, and one of the paintings touches her, and she starts to cry. I feel it deeply, and I start to cry with her. And those emotions that she is feeling go through me as if they're my own feelings. Many empaths that are autistic cannot shake those feelings. They will hold those feelings for days, if not sometimes weeks. I'm lucky in that when someone leaves the gallery, I'm able to flush those feelings out. But while they're here, I am crying with them. So that's the empath side of Asperger's. Asperger's has a lot of people. There are a lot of people with Asperger's that you may not even realize have Asperger's. So there is Anthony Hopkins, diagnosed about 10 years ago, and he attributes his Asperger's to being able to be a good artist, a good actor, because what he does is he absorbs feelings and uses them. Daryl Hannah is another actress. Dan Aykroyd is another. Now, it's been said that a great many famous people in the past were probably on the spectrum. There's no way to really know. But there is speculation about Van Gogh, and there's speculation about Da Vinci, and there's speculation about Mozart. Who knows? Without any way to really diagnose, there's no way to really know. But certain aspects of them, particularly because they're very non-social, but yet we're very proficient in what they were able to do and excelled above and beyond what other people could do, indicate that possibly they were autistic. So my normal is I am able to paint paintings quickly. My normal is I have some other gifts that happen, but I process quick. I wind up with the autism, with the IQ and all of it, just being different than other people. Now, you might think, okay, that's great, you get all these gifts, so what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that no gift comes without a deficit. And for autism, we have big deficits. So Jack, my husband, if he becomes overstimulated by too much input, as far as people talking, too many noises, too many things happening in our life, can lose his mobility, is unable to walk. Sometimes can lose his verbal abilities. So this man, who happens to be over 6 feet tall and looks like a big Viking, all of a sudden can't walk and talk because he's been stimulated to the point that his mind can no longer process through the information. I tend not to have that unless I'm involved in huge events. And before I moved to Mexico 3 years ago, I was doing 10 events a year in the United States. And with those events, if we had huge audiences and we had huge meet and greets, it would take me about 2 to 3 days of recovery just to be able to get through that in order to reset. Now, some of my other deficits are, I do have OCD pretty good. I like things to be in order, and that does distress me if things are not exactly as they should be. I have sensory issues. Sensory issues are really interesting little duck, because things that are normal for other people are not normal for me. So for other people, you get in a shower and you take a shower and the water feels good and you get clean and you get out and you're fine. I have water sensory issues. So for me, I get in a shower and what happens is it hurts. It stings like little pins, and regardless of temperature, I am cold. It takes me a while to transition from a state of being dry to a state of being wet. So after I am in the shower and I'm showering, then I'm going to turn the water off. Okay, now it comes again. Now we have it in reverse. I'm wet to dry, and all of a sudden I'm freezing cold again, because I just can't get the water off quick enough. And this has kind of plagued me through my life. And because I didn't know I was autistic, and because no one discusses things like showers, I did not know I had a sensory issue. In fact, one day I kind of called out to Jack and I said, Jack, I just turned the water on the faucet and I put my hands under. Does it feel like knives stabbing your hands when you turn on the water and put your hands under? He said, no. And I went, okay, there's another one. And that's really my life. I constantly discover new little sensory issues. I can't do latex. I can't do rubbery things. I can't eat any foods that are chewy that kind of mimic that texture of latex, like sushis, like squid, clam, octopus. The skim on pudding or on Jell-O is distressing, and we're talking nails on blackboard distressing. So those kind of things happen. I also have some sensory issues on skin. So if your hands are sweaty and you touch me, or if you were to rub my arm, it feels like sandpaper. So my skin interprets that as painful. I once had a conversation with a woman who had a child who was mid-functioning on the spectrum, and she had decided to buy him a toy that he was fixated on. And they went into a Toys R Us, and they hit the door, and she was so excited to be able to buy this gift that he really, really wanted. So she went in the store, she took him in there, and as soon as they hit the store, he started crying and screaming. And she tried to explain to the child, she goes, I'm buying you your gift. Don't get excited. We're going to go to the aisle. We're going to pick up the gift. We're going to get it for you. And he just cried louder. And he screamed and he hollered. And he just created such a scene, she had to take him out. And what happened is, she interpreted it as the fact that he was upset about not getting his gift and not getting it quick enough. And this is a misperception with people who see children who are on the spectrum and the parent doesn't look like they're controlling their child or have disciplined their child. But the truth is, it's called a meltdown. And the meltdown is when something happens to us in a way that we cannot control, and we go into this state of panic and anxiety, and it looks, could be things thrown across the room, could be crying, could be screaming. But when that child went into Toys R Us, the lights, the smells, the people, all of it affected him in a way which is not the normal of other people, but it was his normal. And with his normal, he wasn't able to control what he did, because he went to a place where he was very upset, and it caused him to have a meltdown. The woman later went back to the store and got him his toy and brought it back, and he was fine. But sometimes for an autistic, we have no way of conveying what our normal is, because our normal is so different. So this particular child's normal was just so contrary to what the woman herself would have as a normal, that she had no way of knowing. Light, smells, people might be too much. I have been sent a bunch of questions from the English library, and I'd like to spend some time answering those questions. So I believe, for who I am and for what I do, you have some groundwork on it. So now, as I said, I'm going to I actually have a nice little container of questions, and they've been, like I said, nice enough to send me quite a few questions. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to answer some of those questions. So let's get to that point. see if I can't answer what, sorry about jostling around, answer the questions that I have been given. So, okay, I'm reaching behind you, and right behind you are the questions. So, question number 1. How should we, the public, view, treat, and act toward autistic people? Excellent question. We're normal. We're our own normal. We have a light within us. We have gifts. The problem is we don't act like everybody else, and we're not going to follow the rules as society has laid it out. We don't understand it. Let's just take holidays. Christmas, Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day, birthdays, whatever. I don't get it. You know, Christmas comes, you're going to give a gift to someone. Well, why aren't we just giving a gift to someone all the time? If someone I love wants something and they let me know, I'm giving it to them. And I don't care if it's February. It's Christmas every day for me, for someone that I care about. So I think the question is, how should we, the public, treat and act toward autistic people? With acceptance. If someone comes from another country, so we're living in Mexico, the culture is different, the people are different, the language is different. We don't judge anyone here on who they are and what their culture is and how they process through information. There's some things that may seem odd to us, but we accept it because they're Mexican. Well, there's no different for anyone who's autistic. If you're around an autistic and they have to sit at a table, line up all their silverware perfectly around their plate, and adjust the glasses or whatever it is, that's their normal. You know, it should be accepted as the things that make them comfortable, and we have no reason in order to try to change them. Okay, next question. So, what is your ultimate goal professionally? So, I started to paint in 2012. I'm going on 9 years of painting. I've done 1,500 paintings. I've evolved in what I paint. I've evolved on how I approach it. I have traveled across the United States, painting live, speaking. I sell globally. You know, even during the pandemic, usually, you know, I can sell, you know, at least a painting a week. So that in itself for a professional artist is incredible. And of course I produce fast. So my ultimate goal professionally has nothing to do with art. It has to do with, I want to be as famous as possible. I want for as many people to know my name, because the bottom line is that I don't let a painting go out the door without them understanding autism painted it. I don't paint. I'm not an artist. What I am is a vessel that holds a brush, and the autism goes through me and creates. That is the savant abilities. If I could paint from the very first painting, a gallery-worthy painting, and I had no training ever, this is not something that comes from my own abilities to learn and to build on those things I was taught by instructors. My ultimate goal, I want autism to be famous through my art. Okay, next question. You have so many different styles. What inspires you toward a particular style? That is a really interesting question. Because the autism paints and because it creates, I don't know what I'm going to paint. I look at a photo, I feel the photo. Like this woman behind me, the photo that I had a woman, a moody looking woman, and I felt her, and then I walked up to the canvas and the autism painted, and it paints for me, or through me. So the style is determined by how I feel emotionally as I paint it, and the autism takes that and selects the colors and the way I approach a particular subject. And I am not inspired so much by things to paint as I am instructed and channeled by my autism to create. Okay, next question. Good question. It's like, I was very happy that that there was such curiosity. Like I said, things are normal for me, and for me to create the way I create and to do what I do just feels like what I do each day. But to have questions from people that had seen some of my interviews and some of the things I did, and to have them actually ask about it, it is very gratifying, because I'm able to see what I call from out-of-body experience. People see me in a way I can't see myself. Okay, how can we maximum the contribution of autistic people to society? As it is already, autism has contributed a huge amount to society. The gadgets we play with, I'm recording this on my phone. That wasn't here 25 years ago. That ability wasn't. When I'm done with this, I'm going to wind up emailing it to myself, and and I'll be able to get this to the proper people, to be able to go online, to be able to put it on a website or a webcast for the English library. That's all autism. Going to the moon is autism. When I lived in Seattle, before I moved to Mexico, there was a huge complex for Microsoft. In addition to having a huge complex, Microsoft has a huge outreach for the autistic community, because the people that contribute strongly to Microsoft and to the IT industry are autistic. They're Asperger's. And many of them have married each other, and many of them, because it is Asperger to Asperger, have had autistic children. And while it hasn't been proven it's genetic, it does run in families. I had it in my family with my mother, with my grandmother, Jack, my husband, his father, his grandmother, and even his grandfather, who was put away in an institute, most likely had autism, and that is what contributed to him being incarcerated in a sanitarium, because they didn't understand autism, which is different than today. If we want to maximize the contribution of autistic people, give them the tools they need. If you have a child who's autistic, if you have a friend who's autistic, and they need tools to pursue that light, that special thing within them, then you help assist them to get those tools. And you never correct a journey. I cannot be taught how to paint, and likewise I can't be corrected, because I'm not painting, the autism is. Okay, next question. Which of your paintings is your favorite? Okay, so we're gonna have to take a little walk back. So let's go look. I'm gonna walk upstairs and we're gonna talk about my signature painting. I started to paint in 2012. And when I started to paint, like I said, right away I could paint. My third painting actually sold for $4,100 out of a Houston gallery. And I had less than 20 paintings before I actually started getting galleries. This painting happened about 6 months after I started to paint, and it's called Wrong Planet, because those of us on the autistic spectrum in many ways are a bit like Star Trek's Spock dropped on primitive Earth, and we just don't get it. So this is my painting. It's called Wrong Planet. The particular figure there symbolizes me. And it, as you notice, it's more than the background. So with the Asperger's, with the IQ, with the ability to paint and all of those things, in some way I'm more than what's around me. And there's a disconnect from the people around. And, you know, regardless of what happens in my life and how many people I come in contact with, I'll always be different. There won't be anyone that'll be doing what I do exactly as I do. So that is wrong planet, and that's how I feel. Now, the other thing I will point out, notice the blending in the sky of the acrylic paints. I only use acrylic paints, and one of the things about acrylic paints is they dry really quickly. And for me, I'm able to blend them in a way which looks like they're oils. I'm also very heavy with my paints, which is a bit like oils as well. So that in itself makes me unique, just because of the way I'm able to manipulate the paint. Anyway, that is my favorite painting. Not only is it my favorite painting, it's my signature painting. And not only is it my signature painting, it's the painting that most depicts who I am. Okay, so let's grab another question. What's your dream project? Good question. I would like to do something for someone in a large scale that truly took their soul and put it on a canvas. And then I'd like for that particular canvas to be public, where it's seen and it's known. So let's do a wild, like crazy thing like that will never happen, but it's the way I feel about it. If the Obamas asked me to paint them, I'm not a portrait artist. I can't get perfect facial features. I can't do photographic likenesses. But what I can do is I can catch a soul. And for Michelle and for Barack, if I got a chance in order to put their souls on canvas, it would be incredibly gratifying for me. And to have it go someplace, to be displayed where people would understand that autism saw them that way, would further my journey. Okay, next question. Oh, long question. Okay. It's been said that Mozart was probably autistic. He was a musical genius, both composer and performer, and incredibly prolific. He also lacked normal social skills. Do you think his autism wrote his feelings as music? As you say, autism paints your feelings. Absolutely. For those of us on the spectrum that have a light within us, and we channel that light into what we create, it's our voice. You are not, honestly, I'm an autistic guy, and had I not picked up a brush, and had I not created art, and had I not excelled in what I do and how I present myself and my outreach in the world, you wouldn't care what I have to say. So my only voice is through the art, because even though you're listening to me, it's about how the art speaks for me. I haven't mentioned this before, but I will say that one of the things that happened because of the art and because of being out in the world, a not-for-profit publisher has reached out to me to write my memoir. And I'm probably about 3/4 of the way through it. It's a journey of my life. It's a journey of my childhood, my childhood in a Mexican family, my childhood battling prejudice, my sexual abuse, my drug and alcohol abuse, my just trying to find my way in the world till I found myself. So all of those things are important, and the book will be important. But the book is only important because autism taught me how to paint. And that paint is my voice. For Mozart, his music was his voice. His life, his personal life, you don't care. You wouldn't care. If it weren't for his music and what a brilliant genius he was, you would not get to the place where you would care about his life. Same thing for Van Gogh, most likely autistic. And his tortured life in a convent room painting, who cares if it's just the person? But with the art, we care. And that is how autism channels through us to create something that gives us a voice. Okay, next. How does the public view or treat autistic people that is different from others? Boy, that's a good one. In a perfect world, we treat people as themselves. They are their own people, their own normal, their own lives, they're adults, they make their choices. But we don't do that. When we were in Seattle, we were mentoring and working with autistic children, doing art. And we had a couple of women who were together as a couple who had an autistic child who did brilliant art. Would do cartoons. That was his particular gift. Mid-functioning, did some flapping, stemming, some other visible manifestations of autism. So they said to us, well, we've really worked with him. So now when we go out in public, he doesn't act autistic at all. And I was floored. I was floored. It was like, so for an autistic, we are supposed to conform to everyone else instead of people allowing us to be who we are. For most autistic, that's stem or flap. It's a way of processing. We use it along with our processing. And they squelched that in him because they didn't want to be visible. Now, meanwhile, I'm in a gay relationship. I have a husband. But I was offended that two women who were together would be okay that people would know that they're together and they're a different normal, but their child couldn't be a different normal in public. I think if you want to treat an autistic person well and with respect, regardless of how they function, regardless of what they do, you accept it as their normal. If you see someone on the street with a wheelchair and they are going someplace and going into stores and stuff, you never judge them on the fact they have a wheelchair. Well, we have a processing wheelchair sometimes, and it's important that we're treated with respect because the wheelchair comes with us and we can't get rid of it. So the best way to look and view and treat us is always with acceptance. Okay, next. These questions, they go all over the place. Okay, next question. Do you identify in any way with your paintings? Oh my God, every painting is me. It's everything that I paint is the emotions running through me at the time. There is no painting that is not a manifestation of who I am. So my signature painting upstairs, Wrong Planet, someone asked me, goes, well, would you sell it? And I said, absolutely. Now, I have a high price tag on it because it's an important piece in my journey. But the way I feel about it is, if I have a painting and I hold on to it, it's only one of many. If someone takes it home, particularly if they pay a price that's high for a particular painting, then they really value that painting and it'll be a cherished piece in their art collection. And it'll also have the story of who I am and what I am. Every single piece of art speaks of the journey. And it's important that that everyone understands there's a piece of me in everything. Okay, next question. Do you research? Do you do research of any kind for your paintings? No, I don't. What I do is I look for impactful photos that make me feel. And if I can feel, I can paint. And sometimes it's environment, because now I'm in Mexico. So many times now I have been looking for things that have to do with Mexico and the culture, and particularly since I identify with it. But the research I do is just in living. I want to live, I want to experience life, and I want that life to channel its way into my art. One of the things, if anyone who's familiar with my art would know, I do a lot of women paintings. And the reason I do the women paintings is because women feel. And society has been very kind to them about giving them the power to feel things. Men, we're pretty well castrated. We are told that we're weak if we cry, we're weak if we feel. We have to be stoic, we have to be strong, we have to be the leaders, and it's all bullshit. I mean, honestly, the strong ones are the women. And in any family that I've seen, not any, but a lot, most, the women basically hold them together, and they are the go-to person for most children. And I really feel women hold the power. I think they're much more rational. I watch men in the world, and I see them, basically destroying the environment. I see them fighting with each other, and I think that a world run by women would be a much more sane place to live. I also get off track a lot, but anyway, that question led me to that, and that's where we went. What place do you see for autistic people in society? What do I see for autistic? I see them where they've always been, in the middle of all the advances that society has taken. Someone once said to me that they felt that autistics were the next evolution in mankind. I don't know that I particularly believe that, but I do believe that we have held a strong place in the advancements of the world and where we've gone and how we have journeyed. Like I said, all our toys, all our little electronics and stuff like that, you can just attribute it all to autism, because they came out of the minds of people that thought without boundaries and out of the box. Okay. What do you see as the 2 or 3 greatest gifts from autism for you as an artist? Well, first of all, the art itself. I can't even paint. As I said, I'm a vessel. I hold a brush, and autism creates the art. So that is the number one thing that autism has done for me. The other is that with Facebook and with some of the things that I've done, I have now a community that I would not have as an autistic living a regular life, because we tend to isolate. And now here at 63, I'm very honest with myself, and I can tell you that I definitely would isolate myself given a chance. I don't like socializing. I socialized in the past because I was told that was normal and that's what people do. But the truth is, I don't like it. I don't like to socialize. I like to be isolated. I like to work on my projects, and I like to do what I do. So one of the gifts that autism has given me is pushing me out of my comfort zone. And being out of my comfort zone, I have been able to form a community. Number 3, I have had to come to terms with my deficits. So as a intelligent person with autism who processes differently, I'm given gifts, but I'm also given deficits. So while I have this high IQ, I can't balance a checkbook. I can't do day timers. I can't do anything mundane and repetitive. While for some reason I can wash dishes, I don't know why I can do that. I can't vacuum a floor. I can't dust. I can't make a bed because my mind rebels. It doesn't understand doing repetitive things that have to be done over and over again, and I'm doing the same thing. And it makes no sense. It has no purpose. So autism has given me the gift to forgive myself for the things I can't do. Now, in Mexico, I have a housekeeper, and the housekeeper cooks for me, and the housekeeper keeps the house clean and makes up the bed. I love a made-up bed in the evening, but I just can't do it. So the gift of art, the gift of accepting my deficits, and community. Those are my 3 gifts. What role do you think your art has in society? Gosh, that goes right to the heart of it. I paint because I need to speak. I need a voice. I paint because I feel things and things have to come out. But what I see is, for every story I paint in a painting, someone else has a story that they need to share. So if I paint a lonely figure on a road, someone else is going to see themselves, or see their family members, or see something that is their story within the art. My art in society are stories that are yet to be told. They're doors that are yet to be opened, journeys that are yet to be taken. And I'm supposed to keep creating, and I'm supposed to keep offering hope, and I'm supposed to keep offering new viewpoints that make people question what they think today, because it's not what they should think tomorrow. So I think my art is the open door to change and to healing. How do you think your art affects people? Well, that's kind of with the other. I believe that the art, as I said, is an open door, and I think that art is needed to make people think beyond their normal. And, unfortunately with society, we're taught, you go to school, you get a job, you work at the job, you retire, and then essentially you wait to die. And they don't teach us how to live. And I think art offers people a chance to think beyond what society says is our checklist till death. What has inspired you to do the themes you've done? Okay, this goes back again to women inspired me to feel. That is a huge one. I paint horses because when I first started doing animals, so many of the autistics children were using horse therapy. And I painted the horses because I saw the connection to the children. It must be my Mexican blood, but I have a strong connection to children and the youth, and I really am worried about their futures. I'm worried about what we've done in the world in order to leave a legacy of what they should do. But for me, I just feel like these themes and these things we do should be stepping stones for the future. Down to 4 questions, so not too bad. We've been having fun. My brother, who is autistic, says autism is a different way of seeing the world. Do you think you see the world differently because of being autistic? How does that manifest itself in your life and your art? Absolutely. I don't see the world like anyone else. Now, what I have learned to do is I've learned to keep some of those feelings to myself, because it runs contrary to how society sees itself. I don't understand lying. I don't understand advertising that teaches us and tells us things that are deceptive purely to get sales. Jack and I once were driving and we stopped at a crosswalk, and this large woman came walking by in the highest high heels ever, and she was in excruciating pain from walking in those heels, and she stumbled across the road, and you could see the pain in every step. And I thought to myself, she has been taught that to be sexy, she has to wear those shoes. And instead, what she's doing is crippling her feet. That's a lie. It's a lie. Shoes don't make you sexy. Sexy comes from within. And I think that the world as I see it is not the way everyone else sees it. I have painted paintings that speak of the untruths within society, and many of my paintings point to that on how I see the world. The view I have of the world is a reflection of how I live my life, and that way I live my life works its way into my art every day. Do you have an image already formed, or does it happen? Is the process deliberate? I don't know what's, like I said, when I'm researching my art, when I look at art, when I'm looking at images, I have nothing that is telling me to go look specifically. I look for things that interest me. Sometimes there are photographers I like. There's a photographer here in Merida named Jason Buff, and he does the most interesting photos. His process, his portraitures almost look like paintings as they are. And I'm really drawn to his art. And he did a self-portrait that has some kind of a emptiness in it, with him in work clothes and the lighting and everything. And he keeps calling to me, and I'll paint it. I'll paint it eventually. I don't know when I'll paint it, but it'll speak to me when it's time to paint. I don't know when I'll paint anything, but I'll paint it when it's supposed to happen. And because of that attention deficit disorder thing that goes on with the autism, I'll paint a woman, then I'll paint a horse, then I'll do a landscape, then I'll do something more abstract, then I'll do something more realistic, and it will come as it comes. And that's the way the autism and the art works through me. Go, 2 more questions. Does a different educational process work better for autistic children? If so, what is? Yes. Okay. This is a good question. As I grew up, I was in a small Texas town in a graduating class that had 90 people. So through my school, I was with 90 other students. Never, ever, ever, ever did they address who I was, what my abilities were, and where I could go with it. I had B, C, D, never F, but pretty bad grades until the 9th grade. Now, society said I had to have good grades in order to go to college. So I hit the 9th grade, National Honor Society, because I needed to have good grades in order to go to college and to score well and all of those things. Why can't we see our children? Why do we have to teach them like all the rest of the children? If there is someone who processes quickly, you address that quickly in your the way you challenge them in order to do schoolwork. If someone processes slowly, you wind up giving them information more slowly. If they are better off learning through verbal, then the lessons need to be more verbal. If they're better through reading and visually, then you give them the information visually. Or if people need to experience something in order to understand it, you give them experiences. The best way to handle any child, and in particular an autistic child, is you address the child and what they are to learn by the way they learn, not the way every other child learns. We too often group people together and think that we have to teach them in the way that everyone else is taught. And that's not true. That's not the way we learn. We learn individually and should be taught individually. Okay, last question. Is there anything you dislike about the art world? Ooh, great question to end on. Everything. I hate everything about the art world. I don't like supposedly having to run a gallery like every other gallery. I don't like standards that are fake standards and ways of looking at art. I believe all art is art. And I believe that we should value art for what it is. And whether or not it's a child with a crayon that does a green squiggle on a piece of paper and says it's a tree, as far as I'm concerned, it's a tree. What I don't like that we have created standards where, oh my God, that art is so commercial. What does that mean? It's like the art is something that came from someone as they wanted to speak. Now, you may buy it or not buy it based on what your tastes are, but it doesn't mean it's any less art. Thomas Kinkade, which I personally don't like the art, it doesn't mean that someone doesn't love Thomas Kinkade and have a house full. And for those people that find joy, it is art. And it is something for them to have enjoyment. I dislike standards that are unreal. I dislike imposing those normals on other people because it's not a normal that I want to adhere to. And I think all of us should enjoy art for art. Okay, that was the last question. So basically, I think we have yapped for a while. At least I've run a running monologue for the last little bit. But I'm going to invite you. We have a gallery. It's on Gaia 66, number 436. It is a new space for us, so the outside's not painting signage is so, but we're in the middle of a pandemic, so it's not exactly like I've been, rushing to get everything done. The inside, beautiful, and the art is up, and we have prices up. If you wish to come see me, you can either email me or you can call the gallery, and we can arrange for an appointment. I'm not really going to open until it's safe. I am in my 60s. Most of my clients are older. And for all of us, I'm going to keep things pretty low-key. I have had a group of people in. They were the Facebook group for over 40 singles living in Merida. They had a nice group here. It was 10 people. I really enjoyed it. So let me get you information. If you want to call me, you can call me. And the telephone number here at the gallery is 999-725-8627. That is the landline for the gallery. If no answer, just call back. You can also email me. The easiest way to email me is through my name, Michael Tolleson, artist @gmail.com. That's MichaelTollesonArtist @gmail.com. So email me if you'd like an appointment. If you have a group that want to come, love to entertain. But of course, being what it is, we're all going to have cubrebocas. So we're all going to be wearing our face mask. We can have wine, snacks, whatever. Just I ask for social distance so that we're all safe. My dream and my hope is that we will all be here when this is all past, and that we'll all have a flourishing, wonderful life in Merida. I thank you for the time you spent with me. I know I'm a little bit of an autistic, monotone presenter, but I hope some of the information that I gave you was new and interesting to you, and I appreciate the time you spent with me. Thank you. Bye-bye.